New England cannot afford a soft storyline right now. The defense that was already starting to scare the league just added a name being compared to prime Devin McCourty, and that absolutely changes this team's ceiling. But the pressure does not stop there. There is a real pass rush debate, an overlooked young player trying to steal snaps, and Christian Barmore facing another test of strength. Hit that like button and pick a side. Are the Patriots building a championship defense or not? And let's start with the part the national media wants to treat like a footnote, but in Foxborough, it sets off alarms. Kevin Byard did not come here to decorate the depth chart. He came here to bring brains, range, and bite to a secondary that already had reasons to walk with its chest out. And when Christopher Price from the Boston Globe watches minicamp and puts Byard in the same conversation as prime Devin McCourty, I'm sorry, that is not a small compliment. In New England, that name carries real weight. McCourty was not just a good safety. He was the guy organizing chaos before the snap, cleaning up mistakes, reading opposing quarterbacks like he had stolen the play call. So when someone sees consistency, intelligence, toughness, and that veteran control in Byard, I am not going to pretend to be calm just to make rivals feel comfortable. That is exactly the kind of piece that turns a good defense into an annoying defense. The kind that makes opposing offenses play rushed, nervous, and unsure. The man is coming off a season with 7 interceptions, leading the league, a 3rd Pro Bowl selection, and 10 years of NFL scars. We are not talking about a pretty June promise. We are talking about real production, real history, and real presence. And this is where I get fired up about the idea that the Patriots might not be able to repeat last season's impact. Could getting back to the Super Bowl be hard? Of course it is hard. The AFC does not hand out invitations. But anyone looking at this defense like New England is about to disappear is sleeping at the wheel. Christian Gonzalez has the talent to erase one side of the field. Carlton Davis brings physicality, experience, and competition. Now put Byard behind them, reading everything, punishing forced throws, closing angles, and tell me which quarterback walks into that matchup feeling comfortable. That is the identity Patriots football needs to reclaim without asking anybody for permission. A defense that thinks fast, hits hard, and forces opponents to play ugly. Byard does not have to become McCourty to justify the excitement. He has to be Byard, with that ball instinct and that veteran voice, inside a structure that has already shown it can scare serious teams. But a secondary at that level also raises the pressure up front. Good coverage buys time. Elite coverage demands that the pass rush gets home. And that is where the next conversation gets dangerous for the front office. That conversation stops being pretty and gets brutal fast. If the secondary is ready to suffocate people, the Patriots cannot waste that with a halfway pass rush. 35 sacks last year is not enough for a team trying to command respect in the AFC, period. You can praise the overall improvement, you can like specific pieces, you can believe in Mike Vrabel's plan, but you cannot pretend quarterback pressure is some decorative detail. In January, a comfortable quarterback becomes a sentence. That is why Joey Bosa's name makes noise. Of course it does. 5 Pro Bowls, 77 career sacks, top pick pedigree, a defender who, when healthy and explosive, changes the math for an opposing offensive line. Carl Rasmussen from Sports Illustrated listed Bosa as a possible fit for New England, and I understand the temptation. Fans hear that name and instantly think impact. But Foxborough cannot sign resumes like it is building a museum. It has to sign availability, consistency, and answers in big games. That is where I start getting skeptical. Bosa had 5 sacks, 16 quarterback hits, and 9 tackles for loss with the Bills last season. A solid campaign, but the second half drop-off is uncomfortable. In the first 8 games, 4 sacks and 12 QB hits. In the final 9, 1 sack and 4 QB hits. When the season tightened, the noise got quieter. Add in the injury history, the age creeping toward 31, and the fact that he has not reached double-digit sacks since 2021. That is not being afraid of a big name. That is reading the risk. And New England already has Harold Landry carrying a similar physical question. Are you really going to double down on a veteran with durability concerns at the same position? To me, this is the moment for Eliot Wolf to be aggressive, but aggressive with intelligence, not star name nostalgia. That is why Leonard Floyd feels like a much more serious conversation than a lot of people want to admit. He does not have the same headline shine as Bosa, but he has length, speed, experience in different systems, and a recent history of staying on the field. In 2023 with Buffalo, he had 10.5 sacks, 19 quarterback hits, and 9 tackles for loss. In 2024 with the 49ers, 8.5 sacks and 16 QB hits in 17 games. The drop in Atlanta with 3.5 sacks is real. Nobody needs to sugarcoat it. but the full package still fits better with what the Patriots need: reliable rotation, mentorship for Gabe Hakis, and outside pressure that helps Milton Williams, Christian Barmore, and Draymond Jones inside. The Patriots do not need to win the offseason poster contest. They need to win the fit. If the choice is between betting on the more famous name or the defender who brings more stability to the plan, I am pounding the table for stability on the edge. Floyd may not sell more jerseys than Bosa, but he could bring exactly the kind of pressure that turns this secondary into a complete nightmare. Now hold on to this one, because everybody loves talking about the expensive name, the famous veteran, the draft pick. But sometimes the spark on a roster comes from a guy already inside the building, quietly fighting for his own space. Elijah Ponder is not a national headline. He is not the kind of name that stops a TV segment. But the Patriots apparently really like what they have. And to me, that is the kind of detail that can turn into a real training camp fight. Ponder came in as an undrafted rookie, earned a roster spot after a strong training camp, and finished the year with 24 tackles, 4 sacks, 15 games, 24% of the defensive snaps, and more than half of the special team snaps. For a player who came through the narrow door, that is not nothing. That is survival the hard way. That is the kind of resume Foxborough has always valued, because this franchise was also built by people who did not get a red carpet and still forced coaches to pay attention. And when Greg Byard mentions Ponder as someone Gabe Hakis has to compete with, the conversation changes. JCAS came in as a second-round pick, with investment, with expectations. Braden Swinson is also in that depth conversation. Harold Landry and Draymond Jones sit higher in the picture. But if the team truly sees Ponder as someone who could become something this year, then nobody gets a guaranteed spot just because they arrived with more hype. That is the part I love, and the part I demand at the same time. The Patriots need pass rush, yes. They need to consider a veteran, yes. They need to develop jackass, of course. But they also need to reward the guy who bites into the field. If Ponder comes back to camp stronger, more technical, more violent off the first step, he can steal snaps from players fans already placed ahead of him out of habit. And you know what? Good. Real competition does not respect labels. Pats Nation, drop your read in the comments. Is Ponder just useful depth, or can he become a serious surprise in this rotation? Because if he really levels up, the front seven gains an internal card that completely changes the pressure on Eliot Wolf. And when the conversation moves from the edge into the middle of the line, it gets even more serious, because Christian Barmore is not a decorative piece in this project. He is one of the reasons the Patriots' defense became a physical problem for teams trying to run against New England. The guy went through a heavy scare with recurring symptoms connected to blood clots, played only 4 games in 2024, had just signed a massive contract, and a lot of people did not know what the next chapter would look like. Then came 2025, then came Mike Vrabel, and Barmore returned as a central part of an interior line that refused to get pushed around. But now comes the line that requires maturity from the fan base and firmness from the coaching staff. Vrabel said Barmore is a player who has to be managed. And I know that word management makes competitive fans itch. We want everybody on the field, every snap, every practice, every rep. But smart football also means knowing how to protect what can decide your season. If Barmore does not need to practice every single day to understand his job, if he can absorb the plan without being worn down like everybody else, then the Patriots have to be tough in a different way. Tough with discipline, tough with care, tough with patience. Clint McMillan went in the same direction when he talked about telling him to focus on what he can do, not what might be limited. To me, that is a coach's message from somebody who understands the player and the weight of the moment. That is not making excuses. That is building availability. And Barmore answered like a real player. He said he is out there to work, that it is about the grind, that in training camp he will do what he has to do. That is the kind of attitude Foxborough respects, because there is no victim act, no theater, no running from responsibility. But we are not going to soften this too much either. If the Patriots want this defense at the top, they need Barmore whole when the season demands maximum force. Milton Williams, Draymond Jones, Landry, Ponder, Jacas, whoever comes in from outside, everybody gets better when the middle of the line threatens to collapse the pocket. A healthy Barmore changes blocking angles, demands attention, wrecks protection, and creates lanes for edge rushers to finish plays. So the demand is clear. Take care of the man, but prepare the monster. Because New England does not need June tough talk. It needs Christian Barmore wrecking pockets in December, January, and if God allows it, in the big game that decides everything. The final read is this: the Patriots have a real chance to build a defense that forces the AFC to respect New England again. Byard brings command. The Bosa versus Floyd debate shows the pass rush still needs an adult decision. Ponder could become the internal surprise that changes the rotation, and Barmore, if he is preserved the right way, remains the hammer in the middle of the line. Looking good on paper is not enough now. They have to hit, pressure, intercept, and close games. If you are tracking every Foxborough signal with us, subscribe to the channel because this season is bringing heavy accountability and real Patriots football.